Great. Cool. So this will be pretty quick, but hopefully thorough. And I can tell you a little bit about what's going on with Circle Welcome and then also the situation with Afghan evacuee families that are coming. Did my slide just switch? I was having an issue with it last time I met with the group. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And Kate, just so you know, we don't have a great microphone. It's just coming out of my computer now. So if you can make sure you speak up, that would be great for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. I was in drama in high school, so you just asked me to live my dream, which is to be loud. And so thank you. Yeah, I will project. So I'm happy to, if you can't hear me at any one point, just start waving frantically and I'll cue into you. So great. So this is just meant to give you a little info. Here's my contact information if you want to get in touch with me, if you're thinking about this later and you come up, you know, another question comes up and you just, you know, would like to ask it, here's where you can connect with me. I'm probably best by email right now because we're having a high volume of interest and calls. So I would suggest email. But this is where you can get in contact with me and I can throw that in the chat once I'm done talking as well, so that it's on your Zoom screens as well.
And we've got it, Kate. I can send it out to everybody too. So
oh, fantastic. That's great.
It's on here. Yeah, we've got your paper here.
Oh, whoa, excellent. I'm so glad. Perfect. Okay. So Lutheran Social Service. Y'all know, I think, who we are. We're a community organization doing lots of different work, including Refugee Services. Your congregation is incredible. There have been so many wonderful gifts that we've received through you all that we've been able to connect to families. I remember laptops last fall. There's been baby events, and this has been largely moving through Nancy Molnar, and it's just been incredible. So I would be remiss to not just say thank you at the start of this. It really makes a big difference to be able to give those items out to families when they arrive. So Refugee Services were on the ground doing refugee resettlement and other types of services that help families beyond that initial resettlement period. This chart is a little outdated. 2019 feels like yesterday to me, but it has in fact been a few years. However, what this is meant to show is that the number of people displaced worldwide by violence and persecution was sort of at a plateau from 1990 to 2010. And then starting in 2010, you see this graph start to really go up. So we are living in unprecedented times. I know you love hearing that, right? After this past year, you hear that phrase over and over again. But there are a lot of people forcibly displaced. We've definitely moved above 80 million people on the globe who have been forced to leave their home under really, really difficult, sometimes horrific circumstances. And it's sort of overwhelming. Like, that's quite a large number. I try to imagine, like, what does 80 million look like? And I'm not entirely sure. I just know it's really, really large, right? So this can feel a little overwhelming, but the presentation I'm giving today is really to share with you about one way, in addition to the ways you've already been connecting and making a difference, another way that you can make a difference for at least a family out of this large number. It's something that we can do about what can feel like a really big problem. So to give you a little bit of a situation update on what's happening with Afghan families who, if y'all saw on the news, people being evacuated out of the Kabul airport, lots of really difficult images, it's that group of people. So families made their way out of Kabul, many of them through that evacuation. Some were able to leave prior to then, but most making their way out in that big mass kind of effort. Large groups of people were brought to U.S. forts across the United States, including Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, for temporary housing. So that's where a lot of people are currently being housed. Processing is being done there for employment authorization, which just means you get a card that's a federal ID that says, I have the legal right to work in the United States. And then medical support, including access to vaccination. So that processing is being done in these fort situations. The security checks were done prior to arrival. A very, very small number of people did have flags come up during that thorough security screening. Those people were actually rerouted to different military bases. So I know of one in Kosovo where folks were rerouted for further vetting. So just to let you know, there was still significant thorough vetting done with this group. And refugees are the most vetted group of all immigrants and all people entering the United States. So where are we now? We are in the phase of working to get people from those forts into longer term situations where they're able to start their lives again. The program that's being built for this specific group of people is called the Afghan Placement and Assistance Program, APA. It mirrors resettlement, so it looks really similar, almost identical now to the program that we have done for years and years and years. So as one of the resettlement agencies in Minnesota, when we were asked, will you make a commitment to supporting Afghan families? The answer was yes, we will. So we are a part of this program, and we just had a few families welcomed on Friday and Monday. So it's beginning. It's expected that this program will be very temporary, just to situate those people that were evacuated in that emergency evacuation. And families receive 3 months of support with a case manager assigned to them. They receive $1,225 of welcome grant money at the start for people who have the specific humanitarian visa status that's been given to folks that didn't have a status coming into the United States. Here on my presentation, it says assistance beyond that is developing. A week ago, we were concerned that the families would not have access to food assistance money. We were moving to build systems to meet that need. Then on Friday, I believe of last week or the week before, what is time? That Friday, we found out that Congress actually passed legislation, which was exciting. Yay, we love it. And there was support to include food assistance for this group of people. So we're no longer as concerned about that. However, these families are definitely going to need lots of support still, especially because we don't have a very large Afghan community here. So whereas with other immigrant groups where you might have that larger community to help welcome you, this group of people may not have that as much. And so we still continue to be really emphasizing these circle of welcome teams so that we could match as many families as desire to be a part of the program with a community group sponsor. Okay, so that's just a little bit about the APA program to get you up to kind of where we're at. The state of Minnesota is also doing a lot of work around this. They are providing immediate medical assessments at the airport with a U of M medical volunteer team. There is a temporary housing situation that's been sorted out by the state of Minnesota. So we're really grateful for that support as well. However, it's only temporary. So we're looking for that longer term, longer welcome type of support. So thank you for meeting the moment and, you know, thinking about this and considering it as a potential option for how your congregation does their outreach and social justice work. Okay, so we have our Circle of Welcome program. What is this mysterious program that you keep speaking of, Cate? What does it look like? Well, I'm here to tell you all about it. The probably closest mind frame for it is that it is somewhat similar to the co-sponsoring programs that happened with churches back in the 1980s when Southeast Asian folks were evacuating out of Vietnam and so on, I think late 70s, 80s. So it's somewhat similar to that model. So if you think of church groups, you know, helping out a family with their basic needs and things like that, that program. However, it looks different now, and I'm glad that Pastor John kind of motioned to that when he was introducing this segment, because now we have this formal refugee resettlement program that's already built that does the work. We've got case managers specializing in human services work. So there's a lot of tasks that were done in the 1970s by churches that now we have social workers do. So that's one of the big differences, and we can jump into that as I continue to describe the program. So Circle of Welcome is a 6-month commitment by a community group. Community groups look oftentimes like churches, sometimes like synagogues, mosques, other groups, optimist clubs. It really is open. And we combine volunteer support with financial support for the family. And the goal of the program and what we see is that it really boosts families towards self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is our absolute goal. So it's helping families feel empowered to live their lives and to thrive in Minnesota. And also a wonderful part of the program is that it facilitates intercultural exchange, and you learn so much about your own culture along the way. So that's kind of the goal of the program, is really just to build relationships between community and the family, and get to know each other, and then also help with the family's pinch points when they first get here and things can be a little more difficult. So community groups, we support community groups by giving presentations for the congregation. We can give informational sessions. We provide training for the volunteers. We facilitate meetings with the first meeting with the family. And then the community group has access to a volunteer coordinator who supports them throughout the 6 months. We do a halfway point check-in. We manage the financial rent payments, and we do a wrap-up meeting. With the family, LSS provides full case management. This is written out in our contract with the State Department, and so the group isn't responsible for things like helping the family get a Social Security number at the Social Security office, making sure that they have medical insurance and are accessing a provider, enrolling kids at school. All of those things our staff is able to do. Housing and furniture is also, the buck stops with LSS on providing furniture and housing. However, based on the current increase in need, we are open to help with those items. So if somebody in the congregation knows of someone who's a landlord and has an affordable unit that's opening or something like that, we take leads on that. And furniture, if folks find that to be meaningful, to gather furniture and deliver it to the family's apartment, we also are open to that as well, but it's not a requirement in any way. So what does the volunteer part actually look like? First, there's a core mentor team. That's 10 people maximum who meet directly with the family on, like a weekly or every other weekly basis throughout the 6 months. A big part of it is practicing English conversation, getting to know the community. What are parks? Where are parks? Getting used to winter life. Who's used to winter life in this room? Not me. I'm not ready for this winter to come, but we can help kind of like make it a joyful experience for everyone, perhaps. Rides to appointments if the team wants to. And getting to know the community. So it's a lot about integration and helping the family feel like they know their community. And then optionally, if you want to get more people involved beyond that 10 person or less core team, there's lots of ways. Setting up an apartment or arranging furniture, that can be a group. There could be a team that gets together and stocks the family's pantry with culturally appropriate foods. There can be a learning team that does a book study, reads Kite Runner or another wonderful book, and does a study on it. There's different ways to kind of build out the experience to more people if that's desired. And then the financial support, as I said, it's volunteer support and financial support. The financial support is a gift of $6,000 to $8,000 that goes to support the family's rent during the first 6 months, with it starting higher and then tapering down. And then a component of that gift goes to LSS Refugee Services so that we're able to sustain our work for other families in addition to this family. So that's the Circle of Welcome program in a nutshell. I hope I haven't taken up too much time. Sometimes on Zoom, it's hard to tell. I can't read the room in the same way. But next steps would be, first step would just be discerning about whether this is something that's a good match. And it's not necessarily always the best match for every congregation. So there are lots of ways to get involved. And I know that your congregation has already been extremely generous with us. So this would be a discernment step. If it looked like something that was interesting and that you wanted to make a commitment to, it would start by, having a leader start gathering a volunteer team, scheduling a training with us. We have an asynchronous training. I know all parents are like triggered by that asynchronous word probably after school stuff this last couple of years. Yeah, so it's asynchronous, which means there's a set of videos you watch in advance. And then we get together for a discussion where we can answer questions and talk more deeply. And then fundraising for that support part, and then watchful waiting for the family. It is a bit of a hurry up and wait situation, mainly because we don't have a ton of information about how this flow of arrivals will look. This is different for us than our normal program. So that's the nutshell. I wanted to say thank you again. I so appreciate you letting me come here and tell you about our programs. It's wonderful to meet you all, and I hope that that gives you just a good starting space so that you can move forward with that discernment process. I would love to answer any questions that you have.
I'm curious, Cate, do you have how many people have you had make a commitment to this point? I mean, are you feeling hopeful at this point? Or are things still slow right now? I guess I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so there's over 10 teams that we have at this point. So I wouldn't say that I'm freaking out. I'd say I'm feeling good. However, like I said earlier, our goal is really to make this available to every family who needs it, especially with this group of people who might have more needs. And especially with the really fresh trauma that they've gone through. So yeah, so we're just working towards, making sure we have as many groups ready as we can. So I wouldn't say we're like sitting at the place we want to be yet, but I feel really grateful to be a part of our Minnesota community.
Thank you.
What are some of the characteristics or qualities of those 5 to 10 volunteers that you'd be looking for?
Great question. I don't know if I've had that one before. Yeah, I would say flexibility is important because it can be, resettlement is a bit of a messy experience. There's many flying details and variables. So being flexible is really important. I would say comfort with potentially having language barriers is important as well. with this group of people, because many of them have worked with the US military in some way, there might be generally a father who speaks really well English, not always, but that may be the case. But then everyone else in the family might not speak English. So being comfortable with language barriers is good. And really all that goes to that is just being comfortable with like a little silence sometimes. And we do have lots of resources. We have matched this program. We've been doing it for like 5 years now ish. And many families with zero English matched with volunteer groups. So there's ways to move around it. It just changes it. You're not discussing philosophy maybe, but you're still having a meaningful relationship. So I'd say those are 2 qualities. And you like to have fun. That was probably also a good quality to have for this. Great question. Any other questions?
No, I don't think we have any here. If you guys on the screen have any others, otherwise, I think
I have one question. So,
Yeah.
Our youth are very excited about the potential of working with refugees. Would it be possible for, say, like a middle school or high school student and a parent to serve in this capacity, like together?
Yes, I would actually encourage that. I think it's really cool for the kids to have a kid to know too. If we will match you with a family that has children, usually they're needing some help also in the rent category with more bedrooms. So yeah, no, it's super cool. As long as the parent is there with the minor, then we're good. Great intercultural exchange opportunity there for kids. Cool. Well, good. If there's no more questions. Oh,
No, I was just gonna say, we'll definitely do some discernment on this, and our conversation will go on. Thank you. You painted a great picture of the program and what happened.